I think that for most of us, the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked event for the S25 line of devices went pretty much exactly as you expected. We saw the S25, the S25 Plus, and the S25 Ultra all lining up pretty much perfectly with the leaks and renders that we had seen in the lead up. The hardware was all exactly as we expected, and they didn't really show off any new AI features or features in general that were mind-blowing. The now bar, now brief enhancements to Google Gemini, all that stuff seems fine. It really does seem like a refinement of the S24 series. But there was one additional thing that we were all kind of wondering. Would we see it? There had been this rumored S25 Slim device. Hearing about it for several weeks. We made it all the way to the end of the Unpacked event, and I was so convinced the show was over, I came back out of full screen only to then hear a voice explaining that there was but one more thing, and I had to quickly go back into full screen. And that one more thing was the S25 Slim we've been hearing about, kind of. They started off with this really interesting animation that sort of showed all of these different hardware components. So we immediately started seeing things that did not add up compared to what we had seen with the leaks, the rumors, and the renders. This was the render that OnLeaks actually had posted, and this is a guy that has a great track record with accuracy. But on the showroom floor, this was the device they unveiled. And ladies and gentlemen, just like I had speculated, this was not the S25 Slim. I thought maybe it would be the S25 Special Edition, but they went with S25 Edge, which I actually think is a very cool name. Great way to kind of call back to something from the past. But let's dig a little bit deeper here. So obviously this has 3 cameras on it, and this one only has 2. So that's a pretty doggone big difference. The rumors were that we would be seeing a 200 megapixel HP5 primary, that's the camera from the Ultra phone, a 50 megapixel JN5 ultra wide, that's the new ultra wide that is in the Ultra phone, and then we had a 50 megapixel 3.5x telephoto. What it seems like is 2/3 of that is true. The telephoto is simply not there. It's also worth pointing out how much this camera system sticks out. It is a couple of bumps on top of a larger bump. Of course, the simplest answer to that is you have a device that is presumably 6.4 millimeters thick. It's shaved a couple of millimeters off, and that's probably a couple of millimeters worth of space right there. I have to admit, though, as I sit here for the last couple of days, or a few days at this point, looking at this device, I just can't wrap my head around it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Who is this device for? We've got a 6.7-inch phone that is 6.4 millimeters thick, and that is definitely thinner than a normal phone, but it's not so thin that to me that justifies its existence. It's not like, ooh, that's why we have it. It's so crazy thin. The camera seems solid. You have that primary from the ultra wide from the Ultra. That seems perfectly fine. Something like a 3900 milliamp hour battery is rumored, which, by the way, more on this later, is a lot smaller than the battery in the Plus model, so the battery life is going to be significantly worse. Snapdragon 8 Elite probably cut down by 1 core to make it better on thermals, 12 gigs of RAM. It's just not that mind-boggling of a device. And it places itself directly between the Plus model and the Ultra model. Now, we don't know when this device is coming out for sure. We know it's rumored to be around May. We don't know what the price is going to be, but my assumption would be if the Plus is $999, this thing with its unique look, it's got its own aesthetic, it's got its own name, it's going to be more than the Plus model, right? Like, it has to be more than $999. And if that's the case, how is this not the better phone? This has a camera setup that's probably going to perform very, very similarly. Plus, you have the telephoto zoom to 3x on these devices. It's, yeah, okay, it's thinner, but like, it's not crazy thinner. We'll go back to my post here where I kind of showed all 3 of these. The green is going to be the Plus. The yellow is going to be the Edge. I mean, is that really that big of a difference? I would imagine it probably comes in under the $12.99 for the Ultra phone. Maybe it's $10.99, $11.99, something like that. But again, The Plus model is already the model that sells the worst out of the three. People tend to buy the baseline or the Ultra. They tend to not go towards the middle ground. And now you've created a middle ground between the middle ground and the Ultra. What are you hoping for here, Samsung? If it does well, is it not just going to further lower the sales of the Plus model? It's going to cannibalize those sales? Is that what you want? Are you trying to just kill the Plus model? If you were, why not just not launch the Plus model and say this is the new Plus model coming in May? None of it makes sense to me. Look, I know people have had a tepid response to the S25 series of devices, and I think that that is at least somewhat warranted. I expect them to be extremely polished devices, and if maybe you're sitting on a 2 or 3 year old phone, that would make a whole lot of sense. If you're going from 24 to 25, yeah, I totally get being like, these things have barely changed. But when you think about the devices that are announced, the ones that are official, that many of us have already pre-ordered, by the way, pre-ordering with one of my links does help support the channel and doesn't cost you a dime. Thanks in advance for those of you who might do that. And we think about this Edge device coming later, I am left totally unable to come up with a reason why anyone wouldn't just buy one of these and ignore this little teaser of the Edge device. What about that device would have someone looking at this and thinking, you know what? I wanted to buy a Samsung phone, but I'm going to wait for the Edge. And maybe that's intentional. Maybe Samsung doesn't want to hurt the sales of these devices by announcing another device that's coming later. Maybe that's why they didn't give us any information on pricing or a release window. Maybe there is some special sauce here with the S25 Edge that when it comes out, they can announce it. They didn't hurt the sales of these phones and they can still sell that phone. I am skeptical. I am very skeptical that this device is going to make sense launching at any point from now until May when it is likely to be announced. I would love to hear from you guys though. Am I just missing something? Am I just completely out of left field here? What do you think? Are they trying to replace the Plus model? Like who is this phone for? I mean, I think it looks kind of cool. But in so many ways, it's worse than the phones that they've already announced. We're sacrificing battery size and a telephoto camera to be a little bit thinner and likely to be more expensive. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. If you're looking for a Samsung phone and you want to buy the newest thing, maybe I'll end up being completely wrong, but I would just say buy the Plus, buy the Ultra, buy the standard S25. They're going to be just fine. There's nothing about this that jumps out to me at all. Sound off in those comments down below, though, guys. Subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.